The letter arrived on cheap yellow paper, sealed with the gold mark of the coalition. Ambassador Lin Wei held it with shaking hands. 60 years of human effort had been answered with 2 short lines. Earth's application was denied. Earth would remain a protected primitive world. Lin Wei set the paper down on his desk in Geneva and stared out the window at the morning traffic below. People were drinking coffee at outdoor tables. Children were walking to school. None of them knew that the sky was about to fall. 3 hours later, the first Dralin warship dropped out of jump space above the Pacific Ocean. Then another. Then 40 more. The fleet hung in low orbit like dark teeth. Warlord Kelvar of the Dralin Imperium stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the blue planet with cold amusement. He had been given a simple order by the Coalition Council. Make an example of Earth. Show every other young species what happens when they ask for too much. Kelvar tapped the command panel with one clawed finger. Begin the lesson. 12 cities. Pick the brightest ones. The orbital strikes lasted 4 minutes. Geneva went first. Lin Wei never heard the impact that killed him. He was still holding the letter when the building above him turned into white light. Tokyo followed, then Lagos, then Mumbai, then Sao Paulo, then 8 more. The strikes were not random. The coalition wanted humans to watch their own cultural centers die. They wanted the survivors to feel small. Across the world, billions watched in frozen horror as their screens showed the mushroom clouds rising. Then the screens went dark. Every coalition signal flooded human networks at once. Warlord Kelvar's face appeared on every device, every billboard, every phone. His voice was calm and tired, as if he were teaching a slow child. People of Earth, your leaders asked for what they had not earned. This is the price of pride. Surrender all weapons, all military bases, and all space assets within 7 days. If you do, the rest of your cities will live. If you do not, we will return and finish what we started. The coalition has spoken. The signal cut out. Across the dying continents, people screamed and prayed and ran. Coalition observer ships moved into position to record humanity's response. They expected panic. They expected begging. They expected a broken species to send tearful messages of surrender within hours. Instead, Earth went silent. No transmissions left the planet. No leaders gave speeches. No military responded. Within 12 hours of the attack, every human communication channel that the coalition had been monitoring for 60 years simply stopped. The observer ships waited. 1 day passed, then 2, then a week. The silence was so complete that coalition scientists began to wonder if humanity had killed itself out of shame. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about almost everything. On the dark side of Earth's moon, deep inside a crater that no telescope had ever properly mapped, Captain Daniel Reyes pressed his forehead against the cold metal wall of an observation deck. His hands were shaking. He had watched Tokyo burn from this window. His wife and his daughter had been in Tokyo that day. They had been visiting his wife's mother. He had spoken to them 6 hours before the strike. His daughter had asked him to bring back a stuffed bear from the gift shop at the lunar base. He had promised her. Now there was no Tokyo, no gift shop, no bear, no daughter. Reyes did not cry. He was past crying. He had been a fighter pilot for 18 years and he knew that grief had to wait. His commanding officer was already striding across the deck toward him, boots clicking on the metal floor. Admiral Hannah Pierce was 62 years old, gray-haired and small, and she walked like a woman who had been preparing for this exact day for half her life. She stopped beside Reyes and looked out at the dead surface of the moon. How many? Reyes asked. His voice was flat. 12 cities, roughly 400 million dead in the initial strikes, another 200 million wounded. The coalition gave us 7 days to surrender. They have already started celebrating on their colonies. Reyes closed his eyes, and the project, ready, has been ready for 3 years. We were waiting for them to give us a reason. Reyes turned to look at her. The Admiral's face was carved from stone. She had lost a son to a coalition raiding party 15 years ago. She had spent every day since then building the answer. "Are the Council and the surface governments on board?" Reyes asked. "What is left of the surface governments is on board. The Council voted 4 hours ago. Unanimous. Project final word is authorized." "What are my orders, ma'am?" Admiral Pierce was quiet for a long moment. She watched the Earth rise slowly over the lunar horizon, blue and white and beautiful and bleeding. Then she spoke in a soft voice that carried no warmth at all. "Wake them up, Captain, wake all of them up. Every sleeper cell, every hidden fleet, every weapon we built in the dark. The galaxy thinks we are children. We are going to teach them what we really are." Reyes nodded once. He turned and walked toward the command center. Behind him, the Earth burned. Above him, somewhere in the darkness, 60 years of secret work waited to be unleashed. The Coalition had given humanity 7 days to surrender. Humanity would not need 7 days. Humanity had been ready for 60 years. The silence had only just begun. Snow fell on a small farmhouse in northern Finland, covering the wooden roof and the empty driveway. Inside, an old man named Alexei was packing a single suitcase. He had lived in this house for 30 years. He had raised 2 daughters here. He had buried his wife in the small cemetery down the road. Now he was leaving without looking back. A coded message had arrived on his old radio 3 nights ago. 6 words in a language no Coalition translator could read. Alexei had memorized those words 40 years ago in a training camp deep in the Ural Mountains. He had hoped he would never hear them. He closed the suitcase, put on his coat, and walked out into the snow. He did not lock the door. He would not be coming back. Across the planet, thousands of people just like Alexei were doing the same thing. Teachers in Argentina, fishermen in Vietnam, office workers in Cairo, truck drivers in Texas. They were not ordinary people. They had only pretended to be ordinary people. For 4 decades, humanity had quietly built a hidden network of trained operatives, scientists, and pilots, scattered across every nation and even across some Coalition worlds. They had lived simple lives. They had paid taxes. They had attended birthday parties. They had waited. Now they were waking up. In the Coalition capital of Tessera, far across the galaxy, Speaker Alan stood before a council chamber filled with 17 alien delegates. He was an old member of the Brel species, with pale blue skin and 3 thin arms. He had spent his career studying young races. He had also spent his career being ignored by everyone in this room. Today he was trying one last time. 6 months have passed, Alan said. His voice was tired. Earth has not surrendered. Earth has not sent a single signal. Their planet sits dark. Their fleets have vanished from our scopes. This is not the behavior of a defeated species. This is the behavior of a species that is hiding something. The Drailan ambassador laughed. He was a large gray creature with armor plates across his face. "Hiding what, Speaker? A second moon? A magic sword? They are primates. They are crying in their caves. We crushed them in 1 afternoon." Several delegates chuckled. Alan did not smile. He pulled out a small data slate and placed it on the central table. "I have been collecting reports. 12 of my long-term observers on Coalition worlds have gone missing in the last 60 days. Not killed, vanished. Their families gone with them. Bank accounts emptied. Homes sold quietly. These were humans embedded as merchants and traders. We allowed them to live among us because we thought they were harmless." The chamber fell quiet. The Drailan ambassador frowned. "You are saying they had spies among us." "I am saying they had something among us, and whatever it was, they have called it home." The room exploded into argument. Some delegates demanded immediate strikes against Earth. Others wanted investigations. Alan watched them shout at each other and felt a cold weight settle in his chest. They were not listening. They never listened. 200 million kilometers from Earth, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid that no Coalition sensor had ever detected, Dr. Owen Hartley stood in a vast cavern of polished steel. The cavern was a shipyard. It held 47 warships, each one different from anything the coalition had ever built. Hartley was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been working on this project since he was 26 years old. He was now 68. Today, finally, he was finished. Admiral Pierce walked beside him along a metal walkway high above the floor. Below them, work crews were running final checks on the fleet. Welding sparks lit up the dark cavern like small stars. "How long until they are space-ready?" Pierce asked. "All 47 are ready now," Hartley said. "We finished the last engine calibration this morning. We also have 112 smaller strike vessels at the other 3 hidden yards. And the drones. We have 40,000 drones." Pierce raised an eyebrow. 40,000. "Each one can think faster than any pilot in the galaxy. We let them share decisions across the swarm. They learn from each other in real time. The coalition has never seen anything like them, because nothing like them has ever existed before." Pierce was quiet for a long moment. She watched a young pilot walk across the floor below, helmet under her arm. The pilot was Lieutenant Rachel Doyle. She was 24 years old. She had lost her entire family in the Mumbai strike. She had asked to fly the most dangerous mission in the fleet. Pierce had said yes. "Doctor," Pierce said softly, "you understand what we are about to do?" Hartley nodded. He looked older suddenly. "I understand. This is not war. War has rules. War has prisoners. War has negotiation. What we are about to do has none of those things." "I know. The galaxy will remember this for 10,000 years." "I know that too. I have made peace with it. The coalition burned 12 of our cities to make a point. We are going to make a point in return. After we are done, no species in this galaxy will ever consider attacking a human world again." Pierce nodded once. She turned and walked toward the command tower at the far end of the cavern. Behind her, the fleet waited in silence, ready to move on her word. Above her, the earth turned slowly in the void, dark and quiet and patient. The coalition was still arguing in its golden chambers. The Draylen were still laughing in their barracks. They had no idea what was about to happen. The storm had finished gathering. The wind was about to start. A young Draylen shipyard worker named Hesh was eating a bowl of warm grain stew when the sky above Vesca Prime split open. He was sitting on a bench outside the orbital dock, watching the twin moons rise over the polished towers of his home colony. He had been daydreaming about asking his neighbor's daughter to a winter dance. He never finished the thought. The shipyard's master alarm screamed across the colony at the exact moment that 47 human warships dropped out of jump space, less than 2,000 kilometers above his head. Hesh dropped his stew. He stared up at the sky in pure confusion. The coalition had told everyone that Earth was finished. The newscasts had been celebrating for 6 months. There were no human fleets. There could not be human fleets. And yet there they were, black and silent against the bright stars, falling toward the shipyard like a swarm of patient knives. Captain Daniel Reyes sat in the command chair of the lead vessel, the Sentinel. His face was calm. His hands were steady. He had spent 6 months training for this exact moment. Around him, the bridge crew worked in disciplined silence. No one cheered. No one shouted. They moved like surgeons preparing a body for the knife. "Range to target," Reyes asked. 1,800 kilometers and closing, sir." Coalition response. 3 picket ships scrambling. Main defense fleet is at the far side of the planet. They will need at least 11 minutes to come around. "They will not have 11 minutes, Reyes said. "Launch the swarm." The Sentinel and its sister ships opened their underside hatches. 40,000 drones poured out into space like a black river. Each drone was the size of a small car. Each one was armed with a single high-velocity slug and a short-range cutting beam. They did not need orders from human pilots. They shared one collective mind across the swarm, deciding targets in milliseconds, redirecting around obstacles faster than any coalition gunner could track. The Draylen called their enemies one at a time. Humans had decided to bring the whole hive. The picket ships fired their main guns at the swarm. The drones simply moved. They flowed around the energy beams like water around stones, never breaking formation, never slowing down. Then they reached the picket ships, and the picket ships came apart in 3 seconds each. Not exploded, came apart. The drones cut through their hulls in clean, precise lines, slicing reactors and bridges and crew quarters with cold efficiency. There were no boarding parties. There were no warnings. There was only the cutting. On the planet below, Hesh watched the picket ships die and started to run. He did not know where he was running to. There was nowhere safe on Vesca Prime. In the Coalition capital, Speaker Alan was woken by an aide who was shaking too badly to speak clearly. By the time Alan reached the council chamber, the holographic display in the center of the room was already showing the attack. The Draylan ambassador stood frozen in front of it, his armored face slack with disbelief. The image showed the Vesca Prime shipyards being dismantled in real time. Human warships were now firing their main weapons, and the main weapons were unlike anything the Coalition had ever recorded. The first human warship fired a relativistic projectile, a simple lump of dense metal accelerated to a fraction of light speed. No energy signature, no targeting beam. The Coalition's shield systems had been built over thousands of years to deflect plasma, lasers, and antimatter strikes. They had no defense against a rock moving so fast that it punched through the shipyard's main station and came out the other side, leaving a perfect circular hole through 3 kilometers of armored steel. The shipyard exploded. 46 Draylan warships under construction were vaporized along with it. The second human warship fired a beam weapon, but the beam was not light. It was something else, something that ignored the energy shields entirely, passing through them as if they were not there. The beam hit a Draylan defense platform, and the platform simply stopped existing. There was no debris. There was no flash. The platform was there, and then it was not. The third human warship did not fire at all. It deployed a flat disk, no larger than a dinner plate, which floated into the upper atmosphere of Vesca Prime. The disk began to hum. Across the planet, every Draylan military communication system went dead. Every targeting computer froze. Every command network collapsed. The colony's defenders were suddenly blind, deaf, and alone. Warlord Kelvar was on his personal flagship in the next star system, attending a victory feast in honor of his triumph over Earth. He was eating roasted meat from a golden plate when the news reached him. He laughed so hard that he choked on his food. He told his officers it was a human tantrum. He ordered his fleet to remain at the feast and continue celebrating. He said the boys could clean up the mess in the morning. 23 minutes later, the door to his dining hall blew off its hinges. A human strike team, only 6 soldiers, walked in through the smoke. They had boarded his flagship through a stealth pod that had been hiding inside an asteroid belt for 3 weeks. They moved without speaking. Kelvar reached for his sidearm. He did not reach it in time. The lead human soldier stood over Kelvar's body and spoke a single sentence into her wrist communicator. "The warlord is down, burn the rest." By dawn the next day, 3 Draylan colony worlds had gone silent. Not conquered, silent. The Coalition had been searching its star maps for any sign of resistance. What it found instead was emptiness where its colonies used to be. The galaxy began to understand, for the first time, that the silence from Earth had not been surrender. It had been preparation. Rain fell on the marble steps of the Coalition Council building for the first time in 200 years. The weather grid had failed at midnight and no one could restart it. Workers in soaked uniforms ran across the plaza, trying to keep visiting delegations dry. Inside the great chamber, every seat was filled. Every species in the Coalition had sent its most senior officials. The mood was not anger. The mood was fear. Fear smelled different in every species, but today the chamber stank of all 17 kinds at once. Speaker Alan stood at the central podium. He looked thinner than he had 6 months ago. His 3 arms were folded across his chest. "3 of our colonies are gone," he said. "Vesca Prime, Doru Station, Karn 9. 68 million coalition citizens are dead. Our shipyards are in ruins. Our warlord is dead. The humans achieved this in 28 hours using technology none of us recognized. I warned this council 6 months ago. I will not be laughed at today. The chamber was silent. We have two choices: offer peace, return what we took and pray they accept, or finish them. Half measures will only invite more death. The Trellan ambassador stood up. He was tall and thin, covered in pale white feathers. Peace. They have killed our soldiers and burned our worlds. We must crush them so completely that no species in this galaxy ever dares lift its head against us again. A roar of agreement filled the chamber. Alan's shoulders sank. I propose a grand fleet, the Trellan continued. Every member species contributes its best warships. We gather at the Corlin Nebula. We strike Earth with 2,000 vessels. We end this once and for all. The vote took less than an hour. 16 of 17 species voted yes. Only Alan voted no. He sat down and closed his eyes. He could already see the future, and the future was full of fire. Far across the galaxy on the dark side of Earth's moon, Admiral Hannah Pierce stood before a holographic map. Around her sat 12 senior officers. Captain Reyes was there. Dr. Hartley was there. Lieutenant Rachel Doyle sat at the back, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The coalition has taken the bait, Pierce said. They are gathering at the Corlin Nebula. 2,000 ships, 12 species. They believe they will destroy Earth. She tapped the map. A glowing circle appeared around the nebula. They will not. We will destroy them, all of them, in one place. We will not allow a single ship to escape. Reyes looked up. Ma'am, 2,000 ships. We have less than 300. Correct. Then how? Pierce gave a small, tired smile. Because they are gathering, because they think numbers will save them. Captain, what is the most dangerous mistake an army can make? Reyes thought for a moment, standing still in one place. Yes. Pierce turned to Dr. Hartley. Doctor, show them what we have built. Hartley pressed a button. A new image appeared, a small black sphere no bigger than a marble. This is what we call a pulse anchor, Hartley said quietly. It does not explode. It does not burn. When activated, it collapses the local jump space field in a radius of 600,000 kilometers. Inside that radius, no ship can jump. No ship can send faster than light signals. No ship can leave. He pressed the button again. The image showed 20 spheres in a ring. 20 of these, deployed by our stealth platforms, will create a sealed pocket around the entire coalition fleet. Once activated, that fleet will be trapped. They cannot run. They cannot call for help. The room was very quiet. Lieutenant Doyle raised her hand from the back. Ma'am, permission to ask a question. Granted. Who deploys the anchors? Pierce looked at her for a long moment. Doyle was 24 years old. She had lost her mother and her 2 younger brothers in the Mumbai strike. You do, Lieutenant. Doyle nodded once. She did not smile, she did not cry. Yes, ma'am. You will lead 20 stealth fighters, 1 anchor each, into the heart of the enemy formation. You will plant them in a precise ring while the coalition is still assembling. Then you will pull back, and our main fleet will close the trap. The coalition will not know they are caged until the cage is locked. Reyes spoke quietly. Ma'am, survival odds for the stealth team. Pierce did not answer at first. Then she said, Lieutenant Doyle has run this simulation 1,100 times. Her best score is 40% survival. Her average is 15. Doyle did not flinch. She looked straight ahead at the map. It is enough, ma'am, she said softly. It will be enough. Pierce nodded slowly. She turned back to the map and traced the path of the trap with one thin finger. The officers around her watched in silence. Outside, the lunar landscape stretched gray and empty under a black sky full of stars. Somewhere out there, the coalition was assembling the largest war fleet in galactic history. Somewhere out there, 2,000 crews were eating their last meals without knowing it. The plan was set. The trap was waiting. The galaxy was about to learn what humans did when they had time to think. A Trellan signal officer named Veska was eating a small fruit at her station inside the Corlin Nebula command ship when she noticed the strange reading on her screen. The nebula was beautiful from her viewport, full of slow pink and gold clouds, lit from within by old dying stars. The fleet around her was the largest gathering of warships in Coalition history. 2,000 vessels, drifting in tight formation, waiting for the order to jump toward Earth. Veska had been proud to be assigned to this fleet. Today she would help end the human problem forever. She bit into her fruit and looked at her screen again. The reading was gone, probably a sensor glitch. She made a note of it and went back to her snack. She would be dead in less than 90 minutes. Lieutenant Rachel Doyle held her breath as her stealth fighter slid through the nebula's outer cloud layer. Her ship was painted with a coating that absorbed every kind of scanning beam the Coalition used. She was flying with engines at minimum thrust, drifting more than flying. Around her, 19 other stealth fighters did the same. Each pilot carried one black sphere in the cargo bay. Doyle spoke into her helmet microphone, her voice barely above a whisper. Marker positions confirmed. Beginning deployment in 3, 2, 1, release. 20 stealth fighters released their anchors at the same moment. The small black spheres drifted outward into space, finding their preset positions on autopilot. None activated yet. They simply waited, scattered around the Coalition fleet in a wide, invisible ring. Anchors are placed, pulling back. The stealth fighters reversed thrust and began their long, quiet retreat. The Coalition noticed nothing. Veska finished her fruit. The Trellan admiral on the flagship's bridge gave the order for final jump preparations. 40,000 kilometers away, hidden behind a dense gas cloud, Captain Daniel Reyes watched from the bridge of the Sentinel. Around him, the human fleet floated in silence. 293 warships. They were outnumbered 7-1. They were also exactly where they wanted to be. Reyes touched his earpiece. Doyle, status. Anchors placed, sir. Returning to formation. Well done, Lieutenant. Get clear. Reyes turned to his weapons officer. Activate the anchors on my mark. The officer nodded, finger hovering above the panel. Reyes stared at the holographic display. The Coalition fleet glowed in red, 2,000 small triangles packed close together. He felt no joy. He felt nothing at all. Mark. The weapons officer pressed the button. The 20 anchors activated as one. A vast, invisible sphere of collapsed jump space wrapped itself around the entire Coalition fleet. Inside the sphere, every communication signal died. Every navigation system went blind. Every jump engine shut down automatically. On the Coalition flagship, the Trellan admiral stood up from his command chair. His feathers were ruffled. The screens around him were full of red warnings. What is happening? Why can we not jump? A young officer ran up to him. Sir, we are trapped. Something has collapsed jump space around us. We cannot escape. We cannot call for help. The admiral turned slowly to look out his viewport. There, emerging from behind the nebula's gas clouds, came the human fleet. 300 dark ships in a tight wedge formation. They were not running. They were coming straight in. The Battle of Corlin Nebula began 9 seconds later. The human fleet did not waste time. The first wave of relativistic projectiles tore through the Coalition formation like a hailstorm through wet paper. Whole rows of warships were punched apart before their gunners could target the source. The drone swarms came next, 40,000 of them, pouring into the formation from every angle at once. The Coalition's gunners had been trained to fight ship-to-ship duels. They had no doctrine for fighting a thinking cloud. Inside the formation, Doyle's stealth squadron had not pulled back to safety. They had pulled into the heart of the enemy. While the main human fleet pressed the outer ring, Doyle led her fighters straight at the Trellan flagship. She did not carry weapons large enough to destroy it. She carried something better, a small device that Dr. Hartley had built, a device that would take control of the flagship's targeting computers and turn them against the ships around it. Doyle landed her fighter on the flagship's outer hull. She blew through the maintenance hatch with a single charge. She ran through corridors as Trellin crew members fled past her in panic. They did not even try to stop her. They were too busy trying to survive. She reached the targeting core in 4 minutes. She placed Hartley's device against the main console. She activated it. She ran. The flagship's massive guns spun in their mounts. Then they began firing on every coalition ship within range. By the time Doyle's fighter cleared the hull, the coalition formation was tearing itself apart from within. Trellin ships shot Draylen ships. Draylen ships shot Brel ships. Confusion became panic. Panic became slaughter. Captain Reyes watched the chaos unfold from the Sentinel. His face was still calm. He keyed his fleet-wide communicator and spoke the order that would be remembered for 10,000 years. No survivors, no messages, let them wonder. 9 hours later, the Corlin Nebula was empty of coalition ships. 2,000 vessels were gone. Not a single one had escaped to tell the tale. The galaxy was waiting for news. The news never came. A farmer on a Brel colony world stopped his plow at the edge of his field and looked up at the sky. He had been working since sunrise. His back hurt. His hands were dirty. He was thinking about the bread his wife would have ready for him when he came home. Then a light flashed across the sky, brighter than the morning sun, and a voice spoke from every speaker on the planet at once. The voice spoke in his language, calm and clear, as if it had always known how to find him. Earth is not a member of your coalition. Earth is not your equal. Earth is your warning. The farmer dropped his plow. He sat down in the dirt. Every coalition world received the same message that morning. Every species heard it in their own tongue. Before the message played, the broadcast showed something else. It showed Warlord Kelvar's final moments, captured by a human helmet camera. The Warlord reaching for his weapon. The Warlord falling. The Warlord dying in his own dining hall, surrounded by spilled food and broken plates. The Coalition had spent 6 months celebrating that Warlord as a hero. Now they watched him die on every screen, in every home, on every world. The reaction across the galaxy was not anger. It was fear of a kind that civilizations rarely felt. The Coalition had lost a grand fleet of 2,000 warships without receiving a single distress call. 3 colony worlds had gone dark in a single night. Their warlord had been killed inside his own flagship, and humanity had not even bothered to issue demands. Within a week, the Coalition began to fall apart. The Draylen Imperium collapsed first. Its colonies refused orders from a capital that no longer had a fleet to enforce them. Local governors declared independence. The Trellin species recalled every ambassador and sealed its borders. The Brel Council voted to dissolve itself. One by one, the 17 species of the Coalition pulled back into their own systems. They stopped talking to each other. They stopped trading. They were too afraid that any signal might attract human attention. The galaxy went silent. Not silent like Earth had been silent, that careful waiting silence. This was the silence of a child who had learned not to make noise in the dark. Speaker Alan was the only Coalition official who refused to hide. 2 months after Corlin Nebula, he boarded a small unarmed ship and flew alone to Earth. He carried no weapons. He carried no demands. He only carried a single question. He landed on a quiet airfield in what had once been southern France. Admiral Hannah Pierce was waiting for him on the runway, her gray hair stirred by the cool spring wind. She did not salute him. She did not threaten him. She simply walked up to his ship and waited. Alan came down the ramp slowly. His 3 arms held out to show that they were empty. He bowed his head. "I have come to ask one thing," he said softly. "What does humanity want? Whatever it is, we will give it. Worlds, resources, technology, anything. Just please tell us." Admiral Pierce looked at him for a long moment. Behind her, the sun was setting over the green French hills. Birds were singing in the trees. The world smelled of rain and grass and earth that was slowly healing. "Speaker," she said quietly, "we do not want anything from you. We never did. We tried for 60 years to join your coalition because we thought we needed friends out there. We learned what your friendship was worth on the day you burned our cities. Now we want only one thing." "What thing?" "To be left alone." Alan stared at her. His 3 eyes blinked slowly. "That is all." "That is all. You will not come here. You will not contact us. You will not send ships near our system. We will not come to you. We will not contact you. We will not send ships near your systems. The galaxy is large. We can share it without sharing space. That is the offer. There will not be another." Alan thought about it for a long time. Then he bowed again, deeper this time. "It is agreed," he said. He climbed back into his ship and flew away. He never returned. No coalition representative ever set foot on Earth again. No human ship was ever seen in coalition space after that day. The two civilizations passed each other in silence for the next 1,000 years, like two strangers in a dark hallway who had decided, mutually, never to look at each other directly. On a quiet hillside outside what had once been Tokyo, Captain Daniel Reyes knelt in the soft brown earth. He was holding a small sapling in his hands. Its leaves were pale green and trembling in the breeze. His daughter had loved trees. She had pressed flat leaves into the pages of her school books. She had asked him, on their last call, if they could plant a cherry tree in the backyard when she came home from her trip. Reyes dug a hole with his bare hands. He placed the sapling carefully in the soil. He covered the roots gently. He stayed there on his knees for a long time, his head bowed, his eyes closed. The wind moved through the new grass. The sun was warm on his shoulders. Lieutenant Rachel Doyle stood on the hillside above him, watching the stars come out over the Pacific. The sky was clean. No signals, no fleets, no chatter, just stars and quiet and the slow turning of the world. The galaxy had gone silent. Humanity at last had been heard.